Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back to another playoff show. And it's like nothing happened over the weekend since the last time we spoke. Cody, there wasn't any interesting basketball or fun games or crazy finishes or controversies, fights, injuries, non-injuries. Absolutely nothing has happened. No, seriously, I was thinking about this today. I think this might be the greatest first round in NBA playoff history.
Oh,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I like that call. I think we talked about this recently where like you have a very good memory for things that happen in specific games. We were talking about what makes a good game and you were like, oh, the game, whatever of this year, game, whatever of this year. And to me, like those series all kind of bleed together. So you can say that to me. I believe you. If you were like, actually, Cody, 2014, first round of 2014 was this and this. And I'd be like, yeah, you're 100%. That sounds right. So I'm just going to take your word for it on this one.
Well, I realize as I say that you're right. We've talked about this offline before, that people have different impressions of what makes a great series or a great game. I think a lot of people index on close finishes. So that's like the most salient factor that they can get to. So if there aren't close finishes, a lot of people don't like that. And there's a whole subjective component that's like an entirely different podcast we don't have to talk about today. But even in the crazy Nuggets Clippers game, which we haven't talked about. We had another podcast with Mike, and that game had just not started quite yet. And that game already occurred. But as we're recording, we put this out. Most people will listen to this after the next Clippers Nuggets game. So here's my petition with what's going on in the playoffs right now. Seriously, the first round is too good. Mm-hmm. This is the argument for shortening the season, getting fewer games, and giving us more space in the playoffs. If we're really going to go all in, we're going to have 20 teams make the postseason and 16 playoffs, and we're not going to do best of 5. We're going to do best of 7, and the games are going to be this good in the first round. I need more time. This is insane. Usually, it comes at you like a fire hose. This is like a dam has burst. I'm not drinking a fire hose of playoff games. I'm underneath a dam drinking a river right now. This is madness.
I think last night was the first night where we were texting a little bit about the game, and I was like, this is the first live game of the playoffs that I've watched. And that's because I'm trying to catch up on all the other games that happen. It's like I'm Hermione with like the little time turner situation. So I'm like, okay, this game just ended and we're going, okay, it's halftime, right? I'm going to jump over to this game, right? Oh, these two games are going on at the same time. And then you're trying to beat this next game that's starting at 9:00. And then you didn't catch the end of that game because you had to go to bed. So you're going back and watching the game. It's impossible to keep it all together. There's just too much good basketball. There needs to just be like, hey, we are starting at noon every day. And then just check in when you're able to. Just check in when you're able to, because it's not like people are able to watch the games if they're at the same time. So why not just flex it? Have them start at noon, whatever. I think that's what I would prefer.
But here's the problem, because I think we have to start with the most recent thing that's happened, which is Warriors-Rockets. Now, this has been a crazy series. It's 3-1.
Yep.
And I think in the past, a series like this would very much be defined by like the Steph Curry of his era, the Jimmy Butler of his era, Pau Gasol, Kobe Bryant, I don't know, something like that, where they're making great isolation plays and veteran moves down the stretch, and then the younger defensive team doesn't quite have the guy you can throw the ball to at the elbow and get a bucket. They can't run the reliable pick and roll. And so we'd come out as fans and we'd be like, well, this is a competitive series with some fights, but we see how it's going. That's not what's happening in this series. This series is like game 11 of the NBA Finals. This series has more twists and turns and chess matches. Okay, let me just give you one to throw it out there so we don't have to spend 45 weeks, 2 hours in the X's and O's of this series. The Rockets are playing a lineup that has Alperen Şengün, Steven Adams. They like to put Jabari Smith in this lineup. We talked about this lineup in a video. I call it their jumbo lineup. For them to play this jumbo lineup against the Warriors, they have to go zone. But you cannot play a traditional vanilla zone against Steph Curry and Buddy Hield. So the Rockets are playing a matchup zone that is not even a traditional old school matchup zone. They're stretching it out to the 3-point line. So you have plays where, credit to like Reggie Miller, he's like, oh, the Rockets are back in a zone. But they were in a zone 2 possessions earlier. You just didn't notice because so much stuff is happening. And the Warriors are running actions where all 5 players are above the free throw line. Cody, in game 3, the Warriors ran like 25 pick and rolls at half court. That was one of their counters. They're like, why don't we pull the screener 30 feet out from half court? And this series started with Şengün trying to not have to match up with Draymond Green so he could stay out of the pick and roll. So they want to put him on someone like Moses Moody. Kerr's like, you're not going to do that, right? So he either puts in Buddy Hield the last few games. Buddy Hield's playing 30 minutes a game. Before that, Quentin Post. It's just this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is happening. It took me 4 hours to watch yesterday's game.
The way to describe the zone, because I feel like when you see like a zone against a Curry team, it's like boxing one. Like everyone at this point be like, it's a boxing one. But this wasn't a boxing one. The way that you say matchup, it felt like it was like a traditional looking zone, but whoever was closest with Curry was like, I got to run out and guard him. And he'd go, and they were almost like passing him off. Like, you got him. I got you. Hey, you got him. And that's kind of how they just played the defense. So it was sort of a zone I really haven't seen before. It was a matchup zone, but only matching up against the one guy who's kind of running all over the place. And it's beautiful because it's not the only kind of coverage they're playing. They're playing all kinds of coverage with him because, like you said, they have to set their ball screens at half court because they're trying to blitz him all the way over there, trying to blitz him on the court. It's unbelievable the sorts of things the Rockets have to throw at this guy.
Dude, we've only played 4 games. This is the first round of the 2-7 series. Like, you know what happened at the end of game 4? Steven Adams and the jumbo lineup was dominating. Draymond Green got in foul trouble. He had 5 fouls. So Steve Kerr's like, I'm going to try Trace Jackson Davis because I don't have any more tall people. I mean, I tried Looney. I'll try someone else. And then Steve Kerr goes, you know what I should do? I should start intentionally fouling Steven Adams. And here's the thing. If Steven Adams is a 50% free throw shooter, mathematically, I think that's much better than the Rockets' half-court offense. But Ime Udoka goes, you're not going to intentionally foul Steven Adams, takes him out of the game. By taking him out of the game, that somehow subconsciously pulled the Rockets out of their matchup zone. And then the Warriors were right back to shaking and baking Steph Curry basketball. I mean, this is just one game. Thank goodness we have like the Oklahoma series and the Cleveland's. Let's tip our cap to Cleveland for showing how to perform a closeout game. I watched 0 seconds of that game, but tracked the score the entire time. I was hoping they would get it up to 70 at some point. Thank you, Cleveland, for giving us a series that is a normal first-round series.
The thing I like about what Cleveland did, having not watched more than maybe 3 minutes of the entire series, is they clearly came out and they're like, we're just going to rock this. We're just going to send you to bed. Like, there's no dinner tonight. There's no snack. Like, we're just sending you off and we're moving on to the next round. The Warriors, the thing about the Adam situation that you were just talking about for the Rockets, I almost feel like Udoka sent him to the bench a little early. Like, it felt like it was one of those counters where Steve Kerr's like, all right, we're going to start following you intentionally and see how you handle this. But I feel like the thing with a counter is you can't necessarily just be like, a counter, we're done. Like, you've done it. I think you almost have to like play a game of chicken, stare people in the face. And of course, I'm not telling the Rockets or Udoka like how to be like mentally tough or like to stare people down. But I feel like in that situation, you just got to be like, all right, let's see if this works. Like, let's see if your gamble works. Because if this doesn't work for you, this is going to be more of an issue for you. Because if I remember, the Rockets end up losing, I think, by 3. Off the top of my head, I don't remember checking it recently. I think Adams was like plus 16 in his minutes. He was plus 16. The Warriors really struggle with his size. So if you have somebody that's dominating their minutes in such a small sample, and again, you don't have a big sample in the playoffs, so you kind of have to go with what you have. But if you have somebody dominating their minutes that dramatically, I feel like you got to be like, all right, I see your counter. It doesn't matter. We're just going to keep going with it and see how it turns out.
Yeah, this is the concept of blinking first. And I think you're spot on. I think you can't always prematurely react to a counter. Like, another way to think of it is sometimes an opponent will make a counter in a playoff series that is better for them, but it just takes them from a 6 to a 7. And you don't have to do 7 is okay for you. You don't have to do anything. And sometimes if you overreact, it takes it from a 6 to a 10 because you overreacted. Like, you still have a margin to work with. I don't know how I got on this scale with a 6 and a 7, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Steven Adams shot 46% from the line this year. He's 53% from his career. And I thought earlier in the game, his free throws looked great earlier in the game. No, that was game 3. See, they're all bleeding together. They're all bleeding together. In game 3, he looked great from the line. He was 1 of 2 last night. I think if you got that Rockets half-court offense, they're going in 2s anyway with the way they were playing. I think you had to let him take some of those free throws and not overreact to that, because I really thought that the Warriors struggled to kind of figure out that zone. They had a couple ideas out of a few timeouts, but you even heard Steve Kerr in the post game. One of the first things he said, he's like, we're going to look at that zone and make some adjustments and we'll come back in game 5. And given the history of this coaching staff, even though it's changed a little bit over the years, the Steve Kerr Warriors coaching staff and Draymond Green and Steph Curry and that brain trust, I trust them. They're going to come back with a totally different way to attack that zone. But within this game last night, they did not have great answers. They tried some stuff where they're screening high on the ball and trying to get some change up the spacing a little bit in some of the possessions in the middle of the fourth quarter. But I didn't think it was great. Plus Draymond with the foul trouble. Like I thought there's another subplot of this game. Did Steve Kerr like foul out Draymond by holding him out for, I think, over 12 straight minutes when, obviously he's invaluable to everything they do. I'm exhausted at the end of these games. It's just unbelievable. Cody, please, here, I'm going to pass it to you. Isolate.
This is unfortunate. This is actually not an isolation because I'm going to lob it right back to you because I did not watch the second half of last night's game. Right. I went to bed. It was a close.
Did you pass out from suspense at halftime? That's what that almost happened to me.
Like, I can't handle this. I feel beaten up after some of these fouls. I need to go take a rest after what's going on out here. And from what I saw, like my thought was I'm watching Jimmy Butler out there and I'm like, man, are we sure that Jimmy Butler should be playing basketball? Like, are we positive about that? But then, I wake up and I pull up the stats. I'm like, oh, Jimmy got 12 free throws. Jimmy ended up with a solid little box score. So can you, for somebody that literally didn't even watch the highlights, what happened in this?
Let me explain what happened to you in the most politically correct way possible. The Rockets and specifically Dylan Brooks I'm going to put this very PC. They toe the line of what is a sports basketball play and what goes beyond into other sports like mixed martial arts. And Jimmy Butler and Dylan, there were some altercations and there were some technical fouls, and Jimmy Butler was not happy about that. And he and Dylan Brooks on the free throw line with 2:20 to go in the first half got into an epic trash talking battle. And yes, and it's very subtle in the box out. Butler actually puts his hands around Dylan Brooks's neck in this metaphorical, like, now I'm going to get you. And Jimmy I had the same thought. I was like, I don't know if he's just running around there like he's playing the Knicks without an ankle. And, he's just there for posterity. All of a sudden in the second half, I should preface this, Cody. There was a play in the first half where Jimmy went to the basket and avoided contact. And I was like, man, I feel you, because I would not want to fall down either if it was that painful just to like sit, right? In the second half, that was off the table. After the Dylan Brooks incident, he just went kind of nuts physically. He was flying all over the place. He was attacking. He was making jumpers. He hit a huge three. And I'm glad we brought up Jimmy because he had one of the greatest rebounds I've ever seen in NBA history. The last play of the game, it was a 1-point game. They inbounded Şengün. They ran the same play they had run a ton, which is, if you're going to defend us this way, I'm going to use my size, create some space, and back down in the middle of the court. Sometimes they would use an inverted screen. Amen Thompson had some space, but it was a lot of how can I get my guys closer to the basket and use my size, which I think is a perfectly viable strategy, especially with Steven Adams out there cleaning up all the misses. Draymond defends it. Şengün puts it up. Adams is under the basket. And Jimmy Butler comes from the perimeter, realizes Adams is under the basket on his side of the court. That's the key part of this. He's on the same side of the court as Steven Adams and jumps into the air over Adams as the ball is up on the rim. Meaning, if the ball went to the other side, no one on that side is getting the rebound. But if the ball comes to this side, I'm getting the rebound before that giant bear. And it was just an incredible defensive rebound to close out the game. And yeah, it all started. What did he finish with? Like 25 points or something? I mean,
something like that.
Yeah. It to me, it was like a switch was flipped, and Jimmy immediately commented on it in the post game and said, "You guys all know. You all saw it. There are microphones everywhere." So yeah, that was an incredible moment.
I feel like Dylan Brooks is a really bad history now of awakening the beast on the other side. Like it feels like the whole "I'm going to get into your head" thing just doesn't work with everybody, and he seems to be running against everyone where that seems to happen. If we want to talk about other guys to shout out, I think there's a player that I don't know if we talk about him enough. We could probably talk about him every episode, kind of like we do with Jokic, and it still wouldn't be enough. What witchcraft is this Steph Curry figure been? Because what is he 37?
Yeah,
37.
He's
37 years old. This Rockets team is young. They are physical. And as you alluded to, there may be beyond the physicality that maybe should be happening in a basketball game. And he is still just outrunning everyone. He's clearly the most conditioned person on the court. He has the strength to handle the sort of stuff that's going on. The shots that he's making, of course, I think it was game 2 we were talking about the impossible shots, but still, his ability to get off these shots, get into the paint, make these scoop shots with either hand, it doesn't make sense to me how good he still is at his size and at his age. Like, I kind of thought we were hitting a point like a couple of years ago. It's like, all right, this is the peak Steph Curry. This is it. But he looks as good as he did in the 2022 finals, Ben. It's blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. I really had this thought of like, is he underrated? What are we watching? What is going on? He in game 3, 37 years old, played 41 minutes. My last note in game 3 was that the best two-way game he's ever played. That shouldn't be the normal thing you're writing about a 37-year-old small guard, but he had a number of defensive stands and key plays in that game. They really haven't been able to, or haven't decided to try to pick on him. Now, in that sense, it's a nice defensive series for him because Houston doesn't really have the horses. They can stick him on Jabari Smith, and Jabari Smith doesn't really have much of an isolation game other than back down or get really close to the basket. Even then, Jabari Smith's going to take like a 16-footer, rise up and use his height. So that part of it's crazy. And then on offense, the shot making is just from another planet. In game 3, without Jimmy and setting these screens at half court and the pace at which he played with, that was another part of it. Off makes and misses, but especially off makes, just running it down your throat, getting into a pick right away. Steph does that thing where he flips it underhanded off the ball, then starts running around and chasing it, puts the defense in an entire blender. And when you see a game with 36 points, 9 assists, and then like countless numbers of possessions where multiple Rockets are going to him and panicking about his gravity, and then you get the slip behinds and things like that. I think Gary Payton, the second, GP2. I'm like, how many dads does that guy have? Gary Payton the second. He gets behind the defense in the fourth quarter, 3 straight plays basically where he gets a slip layup, and then they ping the ball around and he gets a corner 3. I mean, all this is happening because of Steph Curry. And if we back up and just talk about how crazy this series is, so much of the dynamic, what lineup is out there, what are the matchups, who's Şengün going to guard, what do we do with Steven Adams in the pick and roll, what's the counter we're going to put out there for Golden State, it starts and ends with Steph Curry. So when you see Podziemski, Brandon Podziemski had like the game of his life last night, a lot of that is because the Rockets are downstream changing the matchup. So like Şengün is on Podziemski for a lot of these possessions, or they're overloading and worrying about Curry in the zone, and the ball comes back to Podziemski. Now, Podziemski also just made some huge plays by himself when they needed someone else to score because the offense got a little bogged down. But yeah, I mean, this is just one. This series is nuts. And there's other series that are also that we haven't even talked about, the Clippers and Nuggets.
To your point about Curry, I have a couple more Curry points to make here. But to your point about the best defensive game maybe you saw, I think it was the last minute of the second quarter of game 3. He has a play. Fred VanVleet drives on him. He blocks the shot, right? He blocks the jump shot, gets it back, throws an outlet for a streaking Buddy Hield to get a layup. And I remember clocking because I was like, is this the best defensive play that Curry has ever made in the playoffs? So to your point, I didn't mark every defensive play he made, but just based off that, and of course, just his ability to be within the team context. Real impressive stuff. Ben, I have a gym corner for you. I got a gym corner for you. Because I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is this Steph Curry guy doing? And this is interesting because I think gym corner, people are like, all right, here's a meathead section. No, we're talking conditioning today, Ben. We're talking conditioning.
It's the cardio one.
This is the cardio one. Because Steph Curry's a strong guy. We'll get to that in a second. But I found some stuff from 2021 where a particular workout that he likes to do is this guy named Brandon Payton that puts this together for him. And there's a star shooting drill that a lot of people might be familiar with, very traditional type of shooting drill. So what happens, you start in the corner, you take the 3, then you cut to the opposite wing, you take the 3, Iverson cut to the opposite wing, take a 3, go to the opposite corner, take a 3, go to the top, take a 3. So
I'm getting tired just thinking about this drill.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Steph Curry, what he has to do in this drill is after every 3, he has to route down to the other end of the court and back before going to the next position. And then he does it twice, right? So that means he takes 10 3-pointers because he does the star drill, then he goes back and does it again, running down every single time. He has to make 4 out of 5. He has to make 80% of them, and he has to do it in under a minute. And if he doesn't do it in under a minute, he has to repeat it. So that's one of the drills that I came across that he does. And then I found another video from 2023 of him just like going through a shooting workout. And again, what he's doing is between each 3-pointer that he takes, he's sprinting down to the other end, comes back, catches in like that movement, and then takes the 3, usually from like 5 feet behind the line. So Curry, in his like traditional shooting drills, is just constantly running to the other side of the court and back, or maybe even starting under the basket, sprinting out to about 20 feet out before immediately turning, catching, and firing. So everything this guy does is predicated just on all mixing in all of this running constantly. And in that video, particularly because he's next to like normal people, you really see how beefy he is. You're like, oh, wow. Steph Curry's not a scrawny dude. Like, this is a strong guy that can take this all physically. So that's my gym corner here. Is we have a great combination of somebody who at the age of 37 is strong, conditioned maybe better than anyone else that can do movement shooter type stuff. And he's showing it off in probably the most physical playoff series we've seen in 20 years, honestly, Ben.
How do you feel about the physicality in these playoffs, Cody?
I think, like, speaking personally here, I think Rockets Warriors is too much. So much. I don't enjoy watching a lot of it. I would like to see some physicality without it going to the point where I'm like, wow, we might have a fight or might get a little bit dangerous here. I think Chris Finch called it out where he was like, it's maybe a little bit too physical in these playoffs. I don't know if I feel the same way about every series. I think I generally like the physicality, like Timberwolves Lakers. That feels like a solid amount of physicality that doesn't get dirty. I don't know. To me, Rockets and Warriors is the only one where I'm really kind of like, oh, we should probably dial this one back a little bit.
Well, it's been a talking point, but I think we talked about it last time, specifically in terms of the moving screens, where when they allow more stuff to be non-calls, and you have these gray areas that organically exist in basketball. And I think that's something to stress. Like, basketball is a contact sport. The whole concept of the block charge applies sort of across the board in different places where offensive players and defensive players meet and are battling for position and space. Who has right to what space? What kind of contact is incidental, or you have the right to make contact there, versus what kind of contact is illegal and kind of giving you a quote unquote advantage that is outside the spirit or bounds of the rules. It's been gray for a long time, and it's ebbed and flowed and changed. But what I see right now is a lot of non-calls. And I don't remember if we talked about this on the show publicly beforehand, but certainly in our chats in scouting for the playoffs, I have said many times that I think we're going to boil over.
You
right?
Say that, yeah.
Yes, because these non-calls allow the defense to go, well, I'm going to push harder. And the offense goes, well, I'm going to push harder. And you kind of have a rock and a hard place situation. And I think league-wide, that's something that the league might want to consider or look at. Otherwise, the intensity and the force and all that, I think, is great. But you just have to be careful not to let the players go over the line. And I think that's what happened 20 years ago in 2004 when they're like, okay, well, you're chucking me off ball and we're screening this way and I'm chucking you off ball. And the league came in and said, like, okay, we want guys to be able to like run around the court. And you're starting to see some of those same things again, where I think multiple times in the Lakers series, Anthony Edwards has thought he was playing cornerback and LeBron James was a wide receiver, and he's running down the court and like pushing him and standing in front of him. And finally, after a long time, they call a foul. And then Anthony Edwards, and he, by the way, he's not the only player doing this. Other players are doing this. You see guys trying this with Nikola Jokic a ton. They're turning to the ref and they're like, oh, come on, that's not a foul. I'm just beating him to the spot. It's like, we've lost the plot if you think that you can prevent an NBA player from running down the court without the ball. That's what these guys are trying to do. They're like, no, I can beat. That's a cornerback jamming a wide receiver. That's not NBA basketball. And that's sort of that along with some plays on screens and drives, I think are these boiling points that the league has to probably think about looking at. One of the questions from the audience right now as we talk through this, that is another thing that has come up, is the consistency of the officiating. I actually find it to be fairly consistent. I think the tricky part is we've had some points of emphasis come in the last few years that has attempted to define certain rules. And then with these playoffs, the teams are ramping up the intensity the strength of the players, the speed of the game, the quality. It's really, really top notch. And so everybody's battling for every little inch. And in some games, some crews are like, hey, that's a foul, and it's going to be a foul for most of the night. And in other games, it's a little different. But where I think the fans get thrown off is they see like, oh, well, this game, let's take the Warriors game last night. Dylan Brooks got called for a foul at the end of the game on Jimmy Butler's three-point shot by putting his hand on his hip. That seems so small compared to if you show the replay of Kevon Looney like boxing out Steven Adams. They look like they're in a UFC match or like actually it's maybe more like sumo. That's what it looks like. Cody, sumo is a wrestling sport in Japan where very heavy people battle each other in a little ring. It's really cool. And he's like they're grabbing his shorts and like his jersey's coming off and they're clawing at each other. And I think for a lot of fans, they go, I don't get it. There's a disconnect. One of these looks more physical than the other. Why are we calling this touch foul? And again, I'm not saying we should allow that much contact in the paint or that those aren't fouls, but if you're shooting a jumper and it's the physics, and someone taps your elbow, you can't shoot the jumper. And in the case of that last call last night, the reason I thought it was a legit call, I think they reviewed it enough. You just saw the review and you're like, they're not going to overturn that, is Butler's momentum is stopped. He's jumping and he hits Dylan Brooks's hand, who silly foul, just puts his hand like on his waist and pushes him a little, and it stops his momentum. When you're up in the air, that's a foul. When you see a guy under the basket and he's got that little contact in the back and he jumps up and he goes, right? And he like flies 3 feet in the air. If you've never done that, it looks like a flop or it looks like no contact. But again, it's the physics of when you're jumping. That's a leverage point where all that momentum, it just takes a little bit of a tap to have your momentum go from vertical to horizontal. So to me, it's been fairly consistent in terms of what we could expect. There's just sort of a general bubbling over point. Some teams may be pushing things too hard, but man, it's also, when it's not too physical, it's also made for just some crazy, crazy basketball.
I saw a clip once of a sumo wrestler going against, I think it was a professional football player. I don't know positions. It was probably a linebacker or somebody that was very, very large. And he was just trying to push the sumo wrestler out. Couldn't move him an inch. I was like, oh, wow, these sumo people are built a little different.
So you know about the sumo.
I know sumo. Yeah. I respect the game. That's a good one. There's a play in the Lakers Timberwolves series. It's right before the Gobert hits LeBron in the head, because I think that was kind of a reaction foul that Gobert had against LeBron, because right before it on the box out, like LeBron boxes out Gobert, but from my eye, I was like, you definitely led with quite a bit of shoulder there, with a little bit more force than like a box out would need. Like the shot was up, LeBron kind of goes into him. I think in the context of everything that we're seeing in the playoffs, the refs are probably like, oh yeah, that's whatever, that's physical, but that's a good box out. But then it elicits this back of the head elbow from Gobert, and I'm not defending like that. That's dangerous. You can't be elbowing people in the back of the head. But I think those are the kinds of bubbling over moments that you're talking about, isn't the heat of the moment. You're getting physical out there, and then all of a sudden you just like get this reaction from somebody else. And these are huge people, right? These are huge people that are going to be able to hurt you if they come at you a little bit more. So I think you're absolutely right about the bubbling over of it.
How are we feeling about the Nuggets and the Clippers series as of recording this? It's 2-2. We obviously had the legendary Game 4, which was just nuts. The Lakers became the first team in the play-by-play era to play all 5 of their players, the same 5 players, the entire half. They played them in the second half, just 5 players. I think that was a misstep. I think it was too desperate. You got to mix in a 6th guy or a 7th guy, both to rest your old players that had a short turnaround from Friday night to Sunday afternoon, but also just psychologically, just get the 1 or 2 minutes, just get the team involved, keep them going, because it's only Game 4 of the series. If it's Game 7, maybe you can get out and be like, these are our 5 guys. Everyone else is cheerleading. I bring that up to say, why did I bring that up? I can't remember. Why I brought that up.
Is it about the Clippers depth? It feels like you're going to make Clippers
thank
depth
you.
comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was about the Nuggets. The Nuggets did something very similar. Thank you, Cody. That was a great save. The Nuggets did something very similar, shorten the bench, looking to just say, all right, we got to play guys that don't have weaknesses, that can't be attacked, that we can trust in all these situations, offense, defense, two-way. Michael Porter Jr. is just hanging on for life. And shout out to Michael Porter Jr., by the way, who is playing with a messed up shoulder. I am the king of shoulder injuries. This is not an easy thing to play through. And it additionally, apparently, it elicits a lot of pain with the state of the injury where it is right now. So he's getting hit, he's falling on it, he's shooting and wincing. And this is the same guy who had multiple years of problems with his back that he was able to get over. And we might forget that. But when he was at Missouri for his, I don't know how I know this, his 1 year in college, he missed a ton of time with the back and came back and did the same thing with a messed up back in I think it was the NCAA tournament, if not the postseason tournament. I think it was the actual NCAA tournament, hobbling around out there with a bad back. So this is the second like big moment in his basketball career where he's done something like this. And I think it's incredible as someone who hates injuries. I think it's absolutely incredible that he's able to do that. But yes, the point I was making is the Nuggets did this, the Lakers did this, and both of these teams completely ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. And maybe you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if you're the Nuggets, you're able to build the lead and you're able to hold on and win the game. But this is what I'm saying about this being the craziest first round of the playoffs I can ever remember. Someone in the comments is going to be like, what about 1993 when we had all these game fives? What about this time we had the Celtics and the Bulls in 2009 with all the buzzer beaters, and this other series had an upset, the Warriors in the 2007. Those are cool. But what I'm saying is we have basketball that used to be like some of the basketball right now is more chess matches, more subplots, more twists than an NBA Finals game. And it's happening in multiple series, and it's happening while this physicality is bubbling up, and it's happening while skill is at an all-time high. I mean, we're in game 4. We got two teams who are like, we're going to play 5 guys the whole game. That's what we're going to do. And then the other team comes storming back. The Clippers couldn't finish it after an insane comeback. And the Timberwolves did finish it. And did they finish it by the nick of, HD cameras, 120 frames per second, and LeBron James catching Anthony Davis on the wrist? Just wild stuff, man.
Let's talk. I'm going to talk about Clippers for a second. We talk about Lakers, Timberwolves in a second, because I definitely have some takes over there as well. But what you were just talking about in terms of like maybe stretching out the bench versus only playing your certain guys, I feel like there's a couple of really tangible things. We talk about coaching, what makes a good coach. We talk about Ty Lue being a great coach, and I think there's this kind of like abstract, Ty Lue's great at making adjustments in the game. But like, that doesn't necessarily mean things to people. Some people want a little bit more like, hey, here's a good thing that he's doing. Something Ty Lue really does well that he's showing off in these playoffs is he trusts his dudes, right? He takes people that maybe, like we talked about before, if there's a counter, some coaches are like, oh crap, we can't have this weakness out there. Ty Lue's like, nope, you know what your role is. I trust you to be able to do this thing, and you're going to do it. Chris Dunn, for instance, it's like, yep, they're going to sag off you. Take those threes. You're going to make a couple of them, but then be a hound on defense. Like, go out there and do what you're going to do best. Ben Simmons, everyone's given up on you at this point. Everyone's trying to trade you. People are beating up on you on social media. Great, go out there and defend Jokic. I don't care if you're not going to try and shoot. Just go out there, be physical, be big. He had like a quote about like, oh, Kawhi Leonard, he's such a great leader. Like, this is a guy that when he's on your team, like everyone just follows him, blah, blah, blah. He's just heaping him with praise, right? Nicholas Batum, he's also one of these guys that's like 36, 37 years old, getting really key minutes out there. So Ty Lue has a wide bench of a bunch of guys that can do some stuff, probably not for like 35, 40 minutes a game, but some stuff that's valuable for a team. And Ty Lue's like, I trust all of you to go out there and contribute every single night. And that, I think, might be the edge to me for the Clippers this series.
Did you mention Bogdan Bogdanovic?
Bogdan Bogdanovic. Talking about rebounds, Ben.
Okay.
Talking about rebounds.
So, subplot in that game, that game had so many subplots that we did a 14-minute video on the game, and I could not fit this in the video. That's how many subplots this game had, which is why I think it's just one of the best games of the decade. Unbelievable basketball game. Ty Lue realizes, I mean, it's not like he doesn't know this, but he makes the decision at some point to come to the realization that maybe we should put more shooters on the court and trade off Dunn and his defense, because the Nuggets are blending, sometimes they're basically outright ignoring Dunn. Sometimes they're just cheating off him and recovering because he's the weakest sort of link in that shooting threat, especially when you get into James Harden, who's playing out of his mind for his age, putting Nikola Jokic in pick and roll. That stretches the defense. What do we do? If they're going to cheat off Dunn, we take Dunn off the court We put a different chess piece on the court. Why did we get Bogdan Bogdanovic? Because he is a lethal shooter. Bogdan Bogdanovic plays 19 minutes in this game. He's plus 22 because he's out there for this entire comeback where they completely change the spacing dynamic of what the Nuggets have to defend because he's out there. And then, of course, he has the offensive rebound at the end of the game, which is incredible. And if you're worried about the whole, like, oh, there's a massive drop-off defensively, which, in the abstract there is, from Chris Dunn. But if you're worried about that, well, then we just come out with our zone, which is another thing that, like, you make a video on a game like this, you're like, oh, I got to get into this zone. This zone is nuts, but that's going to take 5 minutes, so we don't have time for that. This zone, the Clippers have played around with some of the weirdest zone concepts that I've seen in the NBA in the last 2 years. And I've always wanted to do content on it, but it's really hard to find a time or a way to explain it. Or last year we spent half the year trying to figure out what the heck the rules were. And, like, is it truly a zone? Is it a zone that goes into man? I have my suspicions, but they have, needless to say, before this game, they have tried some funky stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they come out in the fourth quarter, whenever they started it, and they're like, all right, we're going to go to this zone where Kawhi Leonard is at the top of the zone, and he's just going to sit right in Nikola Jokic's sweet spot at the free throw line, and Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be up there as well. The formation almost is like 1-1-3 to start, but the nature of these things gets very flowy and matchup-y and bleeds into what we see in man principles because, heck, man, the game of basketball today, man principles often look like zones on parts of the court, right? I got to overload. I got to slide into position. I got to pre-rotate. It confuses broadcasters sometimes. It confuses me. So I'm like, wait a second. What are they doing? Is this a man or is this a zone? Because I think the Clippers on some of those possessions were also in man because the zone starts with two specific players in the corner. And there were other transition possessions where they ran back and it was just flowing all over the place. And Kawhi's just like, I'm a guard Jokic for this possession. And so I kind of wonder, going into game 5, this is another one of these things where the games happen too fast and it will already be done by the time most people hear this. I kind of wonder if we see some Kawhi Leonard guarding Nikola Jokic in man situations because that's where it's headed in my head, along with the fact that this funky wonky zone did a pretty good job of defending the Nuggets. And I have a Nikola Jokic stat for you, but I'll save it for after your thoughts.
Well, what I was going to say is I think that defensive flexibility, a lot of Zubac's praise, and he should be. He's playing great basketball out there. He does a good job of being physical with Jokic. I feel like Jokic's Z-bound percentage is like 0 when Zubac is out there. He does not allow Jokic to grab any of his own rebounds. But then Kawhi Leonard, I think there were a couple of possessions that you see him on there. Kawhi, underrated strong dude out there. Obviously, Jokic is much bigger than him, but he's still putting up a fight. And with his hands, his ball targeting, his like wherewithal in terms of just like man defense, Kawhi is excellent on him as well, as much as he can be. Ben Simmons, again, I thought he had some excellent defensive possessions on Jokic. So the Clippers just have a lot of really interesting guys they can throw on Jokic that aren't necessarily like, we have to play the biggest guy on our team. And I find that pretty cool that in spots, it can be like, all right, Kawhi, your turn. All right, Ben Simmons, your turn. All right, Zubac, you're back into it. What's your stat, Ben?
Well, I was thinking about the stat, but I was also thinking about how strong Kawhi Leonard is, especially from like his belly button down, probably. I mean, how many plates do you think he puts on the leg press when he uses that thing?
I would be really interested to see his leg day because there's something about like the core as well where I'm like, there has to be some kind of like squat situation going on. This isn't just leg press strength. This is just like full body. My low back is strong. My core is strong. So I think there's some standing squat type of.
He's doing some posterior chain work.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My goodness. Absolutely.
You don't know this. You almost know this, but you don't know this. I sent you a version of this stat. The Nuggets offensive rating in this series in the 20-something minutes that Nikola Jokic has been on the bench during throwing out the garbage time minutes because we had a blowout in one game that made the stat even worse. What is the offensive rating for the Denver Nuggets in the non-garbage time minutes with Nikola Jokic on the bench in this series?
I have a number in my head that just feels wrong low. I'm going to say it was like 68.
That is so close, Cody. In 22 minutes, the Nuggets, 22 competitive minutes, the Nuggets have been outscored by 19 points with Nikola Jokic on the bench, and they have an offensive rating of 73.8.
Oh my God.
73.8. To put that in real terms, they played 22 minutes and scored 31 points. So, you're talking like a 35-point half in the NBA. Not a good situation. That's got to be better. I don't know what else to say. They're shooting 36% on threes. It's not like they're like missing all their threes or anything, but that feels insurmountable to me. I mean, it feels like they can't win if that's not better. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think, what was that? That was game 4. Jokic hits the ridiculous buzzer-beating 3 at the end of the first quarter, right? I don't think they score another basket until the 8-minute mark of the second quarter, right? I think it was a solid 4 minutes since the ridiculous buzzer beater that Jokic has. So you're absolutely right. I don't know where they're getting it from. I would like to see Murray play a little bit better.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Like we are not seeing bubble Murray for the shorthand of what playoff Murray has been.
He's looked better at times to me. I think it's there. But you have to give the Clippers credit as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think the Clippers defense in this series, they have more bodies. I want to go back to something we've talked about all year that we even talked about over the weekend with Mike. The idea of getting in a playoff series and just having more playoff players, right? Mm-hmm. The Lakers, now I think Gabe Vincent can play at this level and give you minutes. So, maybe they have 6. But we saw like the Lakers are like, okay, well, I only trust 5 playoff players here. There's no one else I trust. Again, maybe they have 6, maybe 6.5. But the Timberwolves, they got 8. They got 8 legit playoff players. I feel like kind of a dummy that I betrayed myself before the series, where I should have been a little more following my own advice in terms of like Minnesota's got 8 two-way playoff players. That's why you think they're so dangerous, Ben. Don't overlook that in this matchup, because to me, that's been the entire difference in the matchup, winning close games. Game 3 and game 4 in Minnesota, it was like the Lakers completely ran out of juice and Minnesota just kept coming with different permutations of their guys. Chris Finch can play different permutations of their guys. And any team, not just now because we're in the first round, but in the second round, the third round, you want to have 7 or 8 or 9 guys you can go to war with. And we saw that to some degree with the Clippers. And that's where I'm going. Like, I feel way more confident about the Clippers going into game 5 than I do the Nuggets.
Yeah, I really want to get to that Timberwolves Lakers series in a second. First of all, I should have said this at the top of the show. You brought him up twice now. Mike on the pod a couple of days ago. Tremendous work. I mean, he just like stepped in. He's like one of these Timberwolves players that steps in. He's just knocking down all of the threes. And it's great. I like it when good people are good at things. And Mike is a legitimate good person, and seeing him just step in and be awesome just made me happy, Ben. It was like when Nicholas Batum, like he's out there, he has that scary play where Michael Porter Jr. jumps and he like flips over and Batum's really scared about it and he goes and helps him up right away. Right. I was like, oh, that's a good person. I like when good people out there. So shout out to Mike for being awesome. Something that happens with the Clippers, setting people up, the James Harden show, Ben, something that he does so well that sets up guys, gets people in good positions. Is there anyone in the playoffs right now who is throwing better entry passes than James Harden? Because he has a couple like 75-foot, I see you sealing down the other court, 75-foot, just feathers it in there. You have it in the video, the one where Zubac's like, I forget who gets, Jokic steps out in the pick and roll. He's at the level. I forgot who has to take Zubac, but he's kind of on the weak side here. Harden like hooks it, like he throws a hook pass that looks like errands, like it's going to go to the 5th row. Nope, lands feathers into Zubac's hand for the finish. It's unbelievable. He is setting up the guys so well. And some of these funky lineups, like you need somebody like that to set them up. Like one of the lineups they run, they had Harden, Bogdanovich, Batum, Derek Jones Jr., Ben Simmons. I mean, that's just a cool lineup, right? And when you have an organizer like Harden, who's just looking really comfortable for, especially at his age, and there was a lot of talk about like the Harden drop off, which I think is maybe exaggerated a little bit. He looks tremendous, just tremendous. And I think he's a big part of why a lot of these, what do I want to say? These outside Clippers guys are seeing so much success is because they have somebody that can absorb a lot of the load while they can just focus on what they need to focus on.
I don't know how many stands James Harden still has. We get a lot of flack in the comments for almost everything we say all the time. So no one will say this on our behalf. So I'm going to say this. Cody, you and I have not wavered on post-prime James Harden being an all-star level offensive player for multiple years. Was it last year he didn't make the all-star team and we were very quizzical about that?
That was ridiculous.
Yeah. And you're seeing it in this series. The man is 35.68 years old, and he is just the pocket passes, the entry passes. He is actually his shot making. I don't know what the numbers are, but I feel like this series, his shot making consistently has been really good. And that's another thing. Like if he has a big game 5, man, it's just another element where it's like, God, even if Jokic had just a transcendent stretch in game 4 to create that lead. But even if he plays that way, just the Clippers feel like they have other ways. Like Harden is another one beyond the passing, beyond the pick and roll game. If his pull up 3 or the step back 3 is going and he's working that floater and mixing that in, oh, this is such a good series. This is so good.
The coolest part about the playoffs is when you see great players have to do impossible things to win. And they make these, like Steph Curry against the Rockets, some of those threes straight up impossible. Jokic, the like twisting around fadeaway hits over Zubats. That shot's impossible. Like it's straight up not something you can do. Kawhi Leonard taking all those shots he was able to. He went like 15 for 19 from the field.
Yeah.
Impossible to Giannis blocking Ayton at the impossible. And I think that's something that's really cool is you're put into such a stressful position. That's like the only way we're going to win this game is if I just do something that's so bonkers that the audience is going to be like, well, like what are you supposed to do about that? I think that's almost the beauty of the playoffs is you don't get a lot of opportunities for these guys to just show off. Like when I am pushed to my limits, here's the ridiculous nonsense that I can pull off.
I know you have something to say about Lakers, Minnesota. I have to time check us because we're running out of time. And you have other big thoughts that you want to throw to me that you've teased me. You texted me the other day. Cody's like, I got an idea that I got to ask you about on the show. Do you have anything to say about the Celtics Magic? I believe that's the only Celtic. Oh, sorry. Celtics Magic or the Pacers and the Bucks, because we talked about Pistons Knicks a ton over the weekend. Do you have anything to say about those 2 Eastern Conference series?
Wow. Not at like a granular level. I kind of have a stat I want to bring up because I want to shout out somebody that connects to something we've been saying. Do we have time for that?
What's the stat? Yeah.
Okay. Let me give you something. We've been talking about a lot of old guys out here, right? It feels like the playoffs are littered with these old dudes that are contributing. So I was wondering, like, who are some of the best old dudes that we've seen in the NBA contributing on playoff teams? So I took 36 years old as kind of like the starting point. I'm like,
how far back are we going?
All time. And I was
Okay.
like, how many players 36 years or older have averaged over 30 minutes per game on at least four playoff games? So they have to play at least 4 playoff games so you can get the first round in.
Yeah.
And
it's not many, right?
So I think there's 30 total players that have ever done it.
Yeah.
And there are 12 guys that have done it more than once.
Okay. Kareem.
Well, I'm going to zoom in on this one.
Sorry.
It's these 12 guys that we're going to focus on, right?
Yeah.
There's 12 of them.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Most of these guys are like post MVP types of guys. You see Kareem's done it. Karl Malone's done it. LeBron James has done it. All of these guys have multiple of these seasons. So out of those 12 guys, 11 of them received an MVP vote at one point in their career.
Yes.
Okay. All but 3 of them, so 9 of them finished at least top 10 in MVP at some point in their career.
Yes.
There's one guy, Ben,
that never had an MVP vote.
Never got an MVP vote. He made one All-NBA third team in 2011. He's been on 2 All-Star teams, and he is currently doing this for the 3rd playoffs in a row. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Well, the thing that confuses me is it feels like an Al Horford stat, but the years, is that who it is?
It's Al Horford, Ben.
Yeah, okay.
It's Al Horford. We collectively do not understand how bonkers of a good role player Al Horford is. And I think it's easy. Like, I'm just going to come out and say it. In terms of non-MVP or like first team All-NBA guys, Al Horford is the GOAT old dude role player in NBA history. Like, period. Full stop. No one compares to him.
I think he's too good. Sometimes I think he's too good to be called a role player. Like, I've said this before, the Celtics in most situations this year have functioned better with him at the 5 than either double big or Porzingis at the 5, which is just crazy. He's so smart. He's so switchable. He's so versatile. So how much of the Celtics Magic series have you seen?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
We'll just say Al Horford's having a great series and
Al
move
Horford
on.
rocks. We need to give Al Horford more love.
Yeah. I'm excited to really hit hard in the Eastern Conference second round. People don't even know how hard we're going to go in in the Eastern Conference second round. Do you have a Lakers Minnesota thought that you wanted to get out there?
I think we have to start with maybe an apology. And I need to issue a public apology to one Mr. Julius Randle.
Yes.
This guy rocks. He is out there.
I was mocked. Understandably so. I was mocking myself. I think on the preview there was a moment where I was like selling you on Julius Randle being a solid playmaker and making good decisions, and it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see because he's had a very interesting NBA career, and it's really nice to see him kind of have a bounce back after some just very forgettable playoff series in New York.
Yeah, he's playing like the side role to Anthony Edwards so much better than I could have expected. I think like in the last game he had an early air ball, and I think worse Julius Randle is when Julius Randle falls in love with the jump shot. But to his credit, he's really not. Like there's a lot of using his physicality to get in low, using his physicality to find position, kick it out, spray it out. On defense, just taking like, hey, I got LeBron, I got Luka, I got whomever it is that I need to get. I'm going to be out there. I don't know. He's been just an excellent, so much better than I would have expected. And I don't think, like, it's probably not even that much of a hot take. The Timberwolves would not be up 3-1 in this series if Julius Randle wasn't playing at whatever level he's playing at right now.
He's playing great.
Yeah.
He's playing great. And that makes Minnesota really dangerous, which is really exciting. And that's something that potentially we can get to down the road. This series technically is not over yet, but I think they have proved to be superior to the Lakers after 4 games, and I would not be shocked if they closed it out in 5 games. And Julius Randle, through 4 games, I mean, if I had to pick one stat that jumps out to me, Cody, it's 10 turnovers in 4 games, right? So he has almost a 2-to-1 assist ratio to go along with, what are they technically, 23 points a game, 6 free throws a game, things like that. Anthony Edwards, have you seen what's going on with him?
I saw he doesn't turn the ball over ever.
Okay, this is crazy. Yeah. You remember the series started and he threw the ball out of bounds on like the first or second possession of the series.
Yes.
When the Lakers showed him, overloaded the side and showed him a bunch of attention. How many turnovers has he had in the rest of the 3 games and 47 minutes?
It's really
basically
ridiculous.
4 games. How many turnovers has he had since that first turnover?
I think I looked this up. It's like 6 or something like that.
He has 5 turnovers since that turnover in 4 games.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And he has the ball. He's driving like at the end of the most recent. I keep saying this. I don't remember which game it is. At the end of game 4, there's like 2 straight possessions where he gets into the teeth of the defense. He drives down low and he dumps it off. I think one time he gets Randle a layup. I think the other time he might get McDaniels a dunk. He has those couple pull-up threes. He has a couple just unbelievably strong finishes, including the huge jam. I mean, it's not like he's just like, oh, I'm not going to turn it over because I'm going to step back 3 every possession. He's just driving into guys, and he's like, I'm not giving this ball up. He's been, I don't want to say he's been a revelation because we saw this in stretches for last playoffs as well, and we always see these sorts of heights for Anthony Edwards, but it's really cool to see him like coming back and performing in the same way that we saw a year ago.
I think you have one more, maybe 2 more things to ask me. Maybe we can do it in the post show, but I have to get to something in this series before we leave this series. Okay. Jaden McDaniels in this series is just, he's becoming the idea of Jaden McDaniels. That's right. It's like you look at Jaden McDaniels, you're like 6'9" guy, 2-way player. Maybe what if he could handle the ball and shoot the 3 and attack the closeout and make these plays? He's just doing that every game. And it's kind of, well, it may be depending on your perspective, not totally mind-blowing or stunning, but if you look at all the series, Cody, the 8 first-round playoff series, right? And you look at the on-court leader for each team. So, like, for instance, Oklahoma City thumped Memphis, right? So the on-court leader for the Oklahoma City Thunder in terms of net overall rating, net point differential, when he's on the floor is Jalen Williams. J-Dub, the Thunder were plus 25 per 100 when J-Dub was on the court in that series. The next best team was Cleveland. Before last night, I haven't run it since last night. Cleveland, Max Strus was their leader. He could be higher. Boston has Drew Holiday at plus 19. The next player is Jaden McDaniels for Minnesota, plus 16. By the way, if you're not watching on YouTube, Cody just fist pumped when Drew Holiday's name came up. That was one of the great moments in this podcast. But Jaden McDaniels, the Timberwolves after 4 games are plus 16 with him on the court. They are smashing the Lakers. And I do think that single stat has kind of been representative of both how well he's played, how integral he's been. And we're talking about Edwards and not turning the ball over, and Julius Randle and getting good minutes from Dante Deep, like all these guys that are out there. And it's like, yeah, but Jaden McDaniels has been awesome. And if he plays like this, oh man, Minnesota's going to be fun.
Well, I think the thing that's really stood out to me that the Timberwolves are able to do that the Lakers aren't is that when guys are catching the ball, they're able to attack, right? It's not like we caught and we have to finish the possession now. Jaden McDaniels can keep the dribble going, get in there, finish a shot, or kick it back out. Nikola Alexander-Walker, not making a lot of shots, but not very efficient playoff so far. But again, this is a guy that can drive in there and collapse the defense and make them do some stuff. Mike Conley, again, not efficient, but somebody else that can catch or even off the dribble, just get into the paint and make something happen. But it is really interesting because if you look on the, you look at how they're scoring relatively to the rest of the league, right? Mike Conley, negative 12 true shooting percentage right now in the playoffs. Nikola Alexander-Walker, negative 19% true shooting percentage.
What are you saying?
Dante, negative 16.
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Rudy Gobert, negative 20. But then the other side, Nas Reed.
McDaniels. Yeah.
Nas Reed, plus 15. Jaden McDaniels, plus 9.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, plus 5. So let me ask about those guys. That's
a squad.
Is this a trick or treat Wolves thing? Or is this okay? There's 3 options. Trick or treat Wolves. These guys are actually actualizing right now. The Lakers defense is just this bad.
It's all 3 to me.
Okay.
Yes, because in some ways the Lakers are a favorable matchup for them based on the Lakers' weaknesses and the way they operate and the Wolves' strengths. That's just style makes fights. We said that right after game 1, like, oh, and I even knew that going into game 1. I'm just dumb sometimes. Like, you cannot switch hunt Minnesota because they have a ton of versatile defenders. I mean, you can try, and Luka loves going after Rudy Gobert historically, but the rest of this roster and the different players you can put out there make them very adaptable. That's not a great matchup for the Lakers. The trick or treat part has been there all year. But remember, the thing I keep trying to tell you about the trick or treat part is if they played the Heat, they might have lost in game 4. But when they see a good team, that's when they gear up and they show up. Okay. They've done this all year. And then what was your third column? I think was them actualizing. Them actualizing. Yeah. I think there's a little actualization going on right now. I think Jaden McDaniels is getting comfy, and Anthony Edwards is in a competitive groove of who would be next in the next round. As of right now, it's looking like it might be the Warriors. I think that's just going to wake them. I think they're going to be ready for that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting. Ben, these playoffs are too good. This is too good. I thought I was going to say something else about the Wolves. And
can I give a hot take?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've kept this one in.
Oh.
I think this year's Wolves are better than last year's Wolves.
They're better.
Yeah.
What is there anything specific that you think feels better about them?
The versatility of the balance of defense, switchability, 3-point shooting. Everyone's comfortable with the ball. I just think you're better off than Kyle Anderson can't shoot or Cat can't defend or whatever. I just think they're better.
I need to see it a little bit more.
I know you do. I
need to see it more. I can't. I was one of those that was beguiled by those first 8 games from Anthony Edwards, where I was kind of like, people are saying the Michael Jordan words.
You mean last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a little too excited about what we saw, and then it kind of tapered off a little bit.
You got to remember they played the Suns.
That's
to support this show, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. That's the best way to support us directly. That's where we have our extra content this year. We got extra videos. We have our playoff stat board is about to go live. Patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. Cody, now that we're in the post show, you have something for me, don't you?
I do. I have a question I want to ask you. Let's talk about the Lakers for a second. I have a nice thing about the Lakers. I'm thinking about this. I see Luka Doncic. He uncorks this step back 3 quite a bit. And I don't know if you noticed, but they're pretty defended. There's a couple times you watch, you're like, I don't know how it's possible how this dude got it off. And I was starting to think of in the pantheon of, we're going to call them inelastic shots, right? We could say unstoppable shots. So in other terms, a shot that if you go to, it almost doesn't matter how well it's defended. It's going to generate some kind of an offense for you. In the history of inelastic shots in NBA history, where does Luka Doncic's step back three rank? And let me give you a couple of them that I thought of. We have things like the Dirk Nowitzki one-legged fadeaway from the elbow. We have things like Kareem's skyhook. I don't know if you have a Hakeem shot you want to go to, but I feel like there has to be some kind of Hakeem fadeaway that goes in there. Maybe I could give you a Kobe Bryant elbow fade in there. Maybe I could give you a Jerry West pull up. I think that's got to be in there somewhere.
You're not going to give me a Michael Jordan in this?
Let's give you Michael Jordan. There's something weird about Michael Jordan, right?
Okay.
It's a technicality, but
yeah,
let's throw those other ones out there.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know where you're going. Who else?
Okay. I think it's probably my personal pantheon, just off the top of my head. Is there anything else glaring that I'm missing in there?
Giannis Antetokounmpo 3. That's always going to miss, right? Can you count Jokic? Can you count any Jokic?
Oh, wow.
Like, you know what I'm talking about, when he's in the paint and he's covered, but he turns it into a Nerf hoop?
What would you say about like Kevin McHale's post game?
It was really good.
Yeah. I was gonna say, could we put that in here?
So if I'm understanding this, because the Michael Jordan thing I think is going to break.
Yeah,
it's going to break this, right? It's going to break it, because I think where we're going with Michael Jordan is he creates space and his athleticism, right? So it's not like truly the same level of like, oh, I'm stuck and I have to shoot this over this arm that's just about to block it. Maybe old man Michael Jordan did that, but not younger Michael Jordan.
Let's put Jordan in there, because I think the thing about like if you watch Kobe and Jordan, Kobe just took a lot more tough shots, and Jordan was so good at using his footwork and whatever else to actually give himself some space where like the difficulty of the shots aren't quite the ridiculous, which is a good thing. This is actually a compliment. This is why Jordan was so efficient, is because he could generate really good looks for himself all the time. But let's just put Jordan's post fade in there. We can put it in there as well.
Okay. My initial thought is probably Kareem's skyhook. You could sit on the skyhook. Does that count? Like, can you take away the shot in the same way? Let's think about the step back. Remember when James Harden was averaging 40 points a game and Scottie Pippen's like, you should stand behind him. And then the Bucks are like, let's stand behind him. And so it's like, well, technically you could take away the step back, but then it opens up some other giant counter, not even like a little counter. The same thing as happens with Kareem's skyhook. The players would just sit on his left or whatever leg is turning, right? They would just sit on that left step on his right side. So he would have to spin back and take a fadeaway or a lefty hook or a spin or play out of it the other way. Because otherwise, if you get to the sky hook, you got problems. I don't know how you stop that. So that's my first thought. And relative to era, when teams and offenses weren't quite as efficient as they are today, people have gone back and tracked that thing. And if you're making it at like 53 or 55%, I mean, that's absurd. That's crazy. Shaq had like a kind of a gold standard thing going on for a while where he could hit 60% on his raw field goal percentage. And of course he didn't take twos, so we don't need effective field goal percentage here. And it's like, well, we get it into Shaq and he's going to dunk it or hook it or put it in. He's going to shoot 60% from the floor. He's going to lead the league in field goal percentage. And this is unstoppable. And if you tell me that like a player could just generate that on demand with an inelastic shot and it's 53 to 55%, feels like maybe Kareem would be my answer, but I'm open to other answers.
Do you think that Luka's step back three belongs in here? Like, you think that's a fair assertion about what we're seeing with this shot that he's developed, right?
I think in theory, yeah. I think in theory, because it goes back to the shot he hit over Gobert in the playoffs last year, right? Like, there are just times where it almost feels like he's more comfortable with the defender lunging at him and chasing at him in that position. So, yeah, I don't know. It's really good. Do you have thoughts on this?
I don't know if I have a clear ranking. I think it's really hard to go against Kareem's skyhook. Like, to me, that does feel like a gold standard. I think Dirk really needs to, if we were to like section off parts of the floor, I wonder if Dirk's elbow jumper is number one, especially really like closer to like 2011, where he's a lot stronger Like, I think you could knock him off the spot a little bit closer to his MVP season, like in the 06, 07-ish range. But I think around 2011, he was, I mean, you can go back and watch that run in the 2011 playoffs. Like the shots he was making was just, if I remember, no, that's actually Kevin Durant. I was thinking of somebody else. But yeah, just I was thinking of somebody making a shot with Sean Marion basically draping over them, and it kind of bounced around, but I realized that was a Kevin Durant shot. But yeah, Dirk's right there. But then, like, the Jordan thing of it all is just really tricky because he just generates such good looks for himself all the time. So I don't know. If you don't want me to be technical, like, Jordan's also got to be right there.
Well, Luka has taken in the last 2 seasons over 1,000 heavily contested threes, which is just it's just a crazy number. Only Jason Tatum has taken more, and he's played more minutes. And Anthony Edwards actually has taken about 1,000 heavily contested threes. This is wild, actually. Luka's effective field goal percentage on those is about 54%. So if we convert it to the 2-point percentage that we were talking about earlier with like a Dirk or a Kareem or something like that. So that means he's making them at about 30, just under 36%. Anthony Edwards is actually making more of his 1,000 heavily contested threes in the last 2 years. He's near 37%. And you'll never guess who's making even more of his heavily contested threes in the last 2 years. Do you want to throw out a name?
Did we happen to talk about this guy?
Yeah, he's taken 1,000 heavily contested threes, and he's shooting them at 38.5%, which translates to like 58% effective field goal percentage. That would be Steph Curry, and maybe that has to be a nominee. Maybe the facial that Steph Curry, he's hit the Rockets with like a couple, just stone cold. I don't know what you call it. When we were growing up, that's just a facial. You shoot it in someone's face, and there's no jab step, there's no dribble, there's no play. You're just holding the ball out top, and they're on you, and then you just go whap, and you just stroke it right in front of them. And he's done that like 3 times to Rockets players from 28 feet during this series. I know it's a fun game. It's a fun question. I do think that Luka's step back sort of is in that tier of like very inelastic shots, which is, I think, prompted the thought for you.
See, this is the issue with Steph Curry, though, because like I didn't bring him up in here because in my head I'm like, oh, you can get really physical with him and take away the shot, but like, can you?
I don't know.
We've seen a lot of evidence that, especially since he's almost more inelastic of a shooter as he's gotten older and gotten stronger, right? I think we talked about that in the 2022 finals versus, I keep saying it was the 22 finals, right?
Yes, it was the 22
finals. 22 finals. Yeah. We talked about how his strength opened up a new avenue for his scoring game.
Yeah. Fun Steph Curry fact. How many games in the playoffs in his career has he not made a 3?
Oh, wow. Playoff games that he has not made a 3?
Yeah.
I'm going to say like 2.
Oh, that's so close. It's 1. It's 1. Now, here's the fun part. What game was it? And I'll give you a hint. You know it. You know it. I'm beaming it into your head. You know it.
This is so tough.
You sort of just talked about it. It's right there on the tip of your tongue.
See, this is I can't recall like specific games thing. Is it from the 22 finals?
It's from the 2022 finals. And which game in the 2022 finals?
All right. I think it's got to be one of the earlier ones because the Celtics jumped out to it. No.
It's the game after his masterpiece.
Oh, is that game?
Only time, game 5.
Really?
Game 5. We remember in game 4, they played him straight up. He had like 43 points. He was off the chart. They changed the coverage in game 5 and tried to step out on his threes. And he had a ton of assists and opened up a ton of playmaking. It's the only time he's never made a 3 in a playoff series. But Cody, the man has not played Jaden McDaniels yet in a playoff series. You have any other thoughts for today?
Basketball rocks, man. The second round's going to be, because I genuinely, I want an excuse to watch the Cavaliers. I want to see the Cavaliers in this playoff run. When all this other stuff is going and I have limited basketball watching time, I can't in good conscience be like, you know what, I'm going to go scout this Cavs Heat game. So I'm excited to see Cavs Pacers next round.
Oh, yes. I'm very excited. I was about to say, if you're not watching Cavs Pacers, that is must-see television.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless the Cavs just come out and they crush them and we're like, oh, wow, we need to rethink this Cavs.
That's still must-see television.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. If you come out and you crush a team that played the last 4 months of the year at a 58-win pace, that to me is very, very compelling.
What's the other East series? It's going to be Celtics.
Celtics and the Knicks.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
the Knicks have to finish. The Knicks have to finish the.
It's going to be. It's going to
Yeah,
be the Knicks.
they have a 3-1 lead despite being outplayed in 4 games.
I'll probably listen. The Celtics are incapable of sweeping any team besides the Mavs in the finals. So no, whoever they face, I'm just predicting 4-1. So Knicks 4-1.
But this is why. But this is why these playoffs are so crazy. The Pistons and the Knicks are like the 4th or 5th best playoff series, and they have, my goodness, the number of chess match things going on in that series that we've already discussed half of them, and the games coming down to the wire and controversy, and Karl Anthony Towns is draining 30-footers. Jalen Brunson sprains his ankle in every single game and then comes back in the 4th quarter and scores like 18. He's like Isaiah Thomas, hold my beer. This is what you do. You sprain your ankle every game, and then you come back and you score 18 points in the 4th quarter. I really wanted to get the Ron Artest I love basketball meme into our last video. I couldn't find a way to do it. Absolutely incredible playoffs.
I do one comment I'm going to make about Piston Knicks. I got to know if I'm the only one that thinks this. Is anyone watching Tobias Harris and being like, this dude has been crushing Carmelo Anthony tape? Like, is anyone else thinking this? Like, he even has the like hands away jumper sometimes. The jumper looks Carmelo-ish. His like post offense looks Carmelo. He's been in the Carmelo film room. Like, that's all I can think about when I watch him play.
So this is one of my favorite theories ever. You think that he's studying Carmelo Anthony's like elbow isolation touches and the footwork and the jab step, and he studied it so much that he consciously or subconsciously is putting the hands in the pockets.
It's like when you can do the Kobe Jordan like comparison thing, and he just realized he's like, oh, I'm big. I have the physicality that Melo could use to get to his spot. I'm going to start emulating that game. Someone needs to go ask him this. It's like, how much Carmelo Anthony do you watch, and are you trying to score like him? Because I see it, Tobias.
All right, we may have to do another emergency episode this week. The basketball is just too good. Cody will be back next Tuesday. Do not fear. It's great to see you, my friend. This was a lot of fun. Thanks, everyone, for listening all the way till the end. And, of course, we hope you are having a great day.